Welcome back and thank you for staying with us here at Hot 7 TV. As she laments the disregard shown for COVID-19 protocols at recent events, Minister for Health Mary Isaacs says if it were left to health authorities, there would be no allowance for the continuing of party culture. She says, though understanding of the need to stimulate the economy, this is a risky business. The health minister is calling on event organizers and party goers to show a bit more regard for the lenience being exercised by local authorities.
Minister for Health Mary Isaacs has confirmed that her ministry is aware of the disregard being shown to COVID-19 protocols at recent mass crowd events, a development that she is very displeased with. Isaacs says, though understanding of the need for the continuation of economic activity and the longing of party-goers to engage in such activities, she is disappointed that event organizers are not holding up their end of the bargain by enforcing the mandatory protocols.
While we would prefer to see everybody indoors and, everywhere shut down so that we can contain and maintain, our very clean slate up to now, it is not, practical for us to do so. So we have to try and manage those people. That's why I send out the warning that, look, we need to take care of ourselves. We need to be responsible for each other. We need to be responsible for healthcare in the country. So these people are behaving very recklessly, and it is a very selfish behavior that we see going on out there when you see these things. They are aware that there are protocols in place, and this is the premise that the police gives them permission to go on and have these activities. This is the premise they do it on.
Isaacs disclosed that health authorities do not have the final say in whether such events are allowed to proceed, further noting that if such was the case, different circumstances would prevail.
The Ministry of Health is extremely concerned about that, and left to the Ministry of Health, maybe we would not have lifted the curfew at all. But the Ministry of Health is not, the government that has to take care of the economic situation in St. Lucia. As a government, you also have to consider, economic development and the plight of your people who has been misplaced by, lack of the tourism sector. As you can see, tourism was wiped out. And as such, government must put things in place to try to recover from COVID.
The minister further expressed confidence in the vigilance of local authorities. She says, given the ongoing state of emergency, the island remains in a position where a scale back would be quickly executed if deemed necessary.
We may find ourselves in a situation where we have to roll back. We are hoping that doesn't happen. But if it must, then, so be it. We are hoping we do not have to roll back, but I'm saying if we do have to, nobody wants to roll back, But if we have to, we will, and we have already gone through the process once. Of course, we will do it better next time, but things are still in place. And that is one of the reasons why we still have the state of emergency, in case we have to roll back.
She is appealing to event organizers to meet local authorities halfway by ensuring to enforce the updated protocols as outlined by the island's CMO for the current stage of the reopening of St. Lucia's economy. Jacques Wooding, Hot 7 News.
In relation to the health minister's take on partying, we asked members of the public if they believe that it is the right time to continue the hosting of parties and large social gatherings. Here's what they had to say.
After being locked down so long, I think we need to enjoy ourselves, we need to go out, we have to go and sell, but then we have to protect ourselves by wearing a mask, not being too much in crowds, because we don't know who has the sickness. So I don't think they open too soon, because we need to do business, we need to make a dollar, but our health is more important than the dollar.
I believe in holding down the mass crowd still and the events and the parties, and I feel people should be wearing their masks still. Because you're going on the buses, the driver don't have masks, the people on the bus don't have masks. Somebody can cough on the bus, and they have it and you can get it. So I believe in holding down the mass crowd, the boat rides, the parties, and all these things still.
I believe right now it's too early. We have to wait until this December because the thing is in the air and there are people that come from overseas. Let's see how things go on first before we free up ourselves.
Member of the Ayanola Council for the Advancement of Rastafari, Aaron Alexander, believes that St. Lucia and many other Caribbean islands are in a perpetual state of neo-colonialism. He says at this juncture, when black people are becoming more aware of their rights and culture, it is imperative that all religions learn to be more tolerable of each other. He says while the fight has been long, it is very satisfying that Rastafarian children are being indoctrinated into the school system. But he believes the entire system has a long way to go. Genevieve Gonzague tells us more.
Although Rastafarian children are being allowed to attend schools in St. Lucia and in most cases are not being stigmatized or discriminated against, one member of the Ayanola Council for the Advancement of Rastafari, AICA, believes that the Caribbean still has a long way to go. AICA President Aaron Alexander said there is a need to ensure that the subtle dissemination of socio-economic and political activity by former colonial rulers that are aimed at reinforcing capitalism and cultural subjugation of their former colonies are stopped.
We've long passed that conversation where you cannot discriminate against somebody in terms of their religion. So Rastafari is now well accepted, and this ruling concerning Rastafari children entering schools, this has been abolished for many years now. So the fact that the parents identified and said that the child is not Rastafari and they themselves are not Rastafari, we still feel that, the ruling was wrong, because they hinted towards the child's cultural identity in terms of the child natural lifestyle and all these things, though not professing Rastafari. So we still believe that this judgment was the wrong way to go. And in a time and age where we're talking about Black Lives Matter and we're talking about emancipation and all these kind of things, people have a right to choose whatever culture that they gravitate towards. So we still believe that this was not the correct judgment.
He said, while the court ruling in Jamaica was definitely a blow to all the progress that has been made to ensure inclusivity of all religions and the acceptance of all cultures, he is heartened that in St. Lucia, a concerted effort is being made to be more tolerable of all despite creed. But, he says, there are still trivial issues to be dealt with.
We are still very much trapped in this neo-colonialism mentality. And some of our judges, unfortunately, they seem to be perpetuating these kind of things. So, as I said earlier, when it comes to Rastafari, there's not an issue of Rastafari children being accepted in schools. And when it comes to Indians or other races wearing their long hair, etc., we do have an issue with that. If the school, accept that, that's up to them. But we primarily concerned about the Rastafari community, and that is our battle. One thing I must mention is that the notion that the Rastafari children have to cover their hair, we find that could be a bit of discrimination, because as you correctly indicated, the Indian or the Caucasian might wear their long hair and they are not requested or required to cover it. So why would they subject the Rastafari community to that kind of measure of covering their dreadlocks? So this is something else that we have to deal with.
He says it is not fair that Black or Rastafarian children at this juncture are still being discriminated against because of their hair. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Genevieve Gonzague.
Annually on August 17th, we join the global community in celebrating Marcus Garvey Day. But who is Marcus Garvey and why are his works celebrated on the international stage? We have the answers and more in this report.
On this day, August 17th in 1887, Black nationalist Marcus Garvey was born in Jamaica. Garvey would go on to use his platform as a journalist and publisher to advocate and catalyze the Black empowerment movement. He was often praised for encouraging Black pride, becoming a pillar in the Rastafarian and Jamaican societies. After getting involved in a national strike, Marcus left Jamaica and subsequently started his own newspaper. He also wrote for other publications, namely African Times and Orient Review. There he developed most of his ideas for Black empowerment and unity. After moving back to Jamaica, he founded the Universal Negro Movement Association, an organization that was driven by its goal to achieve Black separatism. His ideas for Black separatism, which encouraged Black people to move back to Africa and secure financial independence separate from white dominant society, became known as Garveyist ideas. While many frowned on him for promoting racial separatism, he was also highly praised for promoting Black pride and encouraging Black worth in his bid to unite the African diaspora with Africa. He began trying to raise money for ships that would transport Black Africans back to Africa, more specifically speaking Liberia. Soon after trying to raise money for these ships, Marcus was arrested for mail fraud in the United States and was imprisoned for nearly 2 years. He was then deported back to Jamaica, where he continued his activism. He later passed away after relocating to London. Jacques Wooding, Hot 7 News.
This is the Hot 7 Nightly News. Stay with us. We'll be right back.